The first SEAL dropped without a sound, a single bullet through his helmet at 800 meters. Before his body hit the forest floor, the second SEAL was down, then the third. The shots came from nowhere, no muzzle flash, no sound, just death delivered with surgical precision from hidden positions in the dense mountain forest. "Snipers! Multiple positions! Get to cover!" Lieutenant Jake Morrison screamed into his radio as his team scattered, diving behind trees and rocks as more rounds cracked through the air. But there was no safe cover. The enemy had them bracketed from multiple angles, overlapping fields of fire that turned the forest into a kill zone. Staff Sergeant Callie Rogers pressed herself against a massive pine tree, her heart hammering as she heard another round slam into the bark 3 feet from her head. 6 enemy snipers, 6 of the best shooters the enemy had, embedded in these mountains for months, killing American forces with impunity. Ghosts who struck and vanished, who'd eliminated 24 operators in the past 3 months without ever being spotted. The SEALs had called them unstoppable. The mission brief had said, "Observe and report. Do not engage." Command had been planning a massive operation with air support and artillery to deal with these snipers because direct engagement was considered suicide. But now the snipers had engaged them first, and waiting for backup wasn't an option. Callie keyed her radio, keeping her voice steady despite the chaos. "Morrison, this is Rogers. I can counter-snipe. Give me 2 minutes to get into position." "Negative, Rogers. You're not a sniper. You're an intelligence analyst. Stay in cover and wait for—" His transmission cut off as another round forced him to duck. Callie didn't wait for permission. She'd spent 3 years in Army sniper school before transferring to intelligence. She'd made shots these SEALs couldn't imagine, and she was done watching good operators die while everyone assumed she was just there to analyze data. She slung her M110 SASS rifle across her back and moved. What happened in the next 18 minutes would prove that some enemies were only unstoppable until someone with the right skills decided to stop them. But before we show you how she hunted 6 ghost snipers through mountain forest, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from and smash that subscribe button. Because this story proves that the most dangerous hunter is sometimes the one nobody expects. Now let's get into it. The operation had started 12 hours earlier with a helicopter insertion into the mountain range that straddled the border of hostile territory. 12 SEALs, tasked with reconnaissance and intelligence, gathering on enemy movements through the region. And Callie Rogers, the intelligence specialist who was supposed to stay at the command post and analyze data while the real operators did the real work. Except Callie Rogers wasn't just an intelligence specialist. At 31, she'd already lived 3 military careers. First as an Army sniper, graduating at the top of her class, logging confirmed kills across 2 deployments. Then as a designated marksman instructor, teaching precision shooting to special operations units. Then a transfer to intelligence, where her analytical mind and understanding of sniper tactics made her invaluable for counter-sniper operations. But to the SEAL team she'd been attached to, she was just the intel girl, the analyst, the one who stayed back and looked at reports while they went into the field. They hadn't asked about her background. They'd seen the intelligence insignia on her uniform and made assumptions. Now those assumptions were getting them killed. The team had been moving through dense mountain forest, pine, oak, and cedar trees, creating a canopy so thick that sunlight barely penetrated rocky outcrops jutted from the hillsides, and steep ravines cut through the terrain. Perfect sniper country. Hundreds of positions offering concealment and long-range shots, terrain that made conventional assault nearly impossible. They'd been 3 hours into their patrol when the first shot came. Petty Officer Marcus Webb had been on point, moving carefully through the undergrowth. The bullet caught him in the head, penetrating his helmet, dropping him instantly. The suppressed shot was so quiet they almost didn't realize he'd been hit until he collapsed. Then the shooting started in earnest. Chief Petty Officer David Chen took a round through the shoulder, spinning him around and sending him crashing into the undergrowth. Petty Officer James Torres tried to reach him and caught a bullet in the thigh that shattered his femur. Within 30 seconds, the 12-man SEAL team was down to 9 effectives, pinned in a forest that had become a shooting gallery. Morrison, the team leader, tried to organize a defense, but every position they took was already covered by enemy fire. The snipers had pre-sighted every likely defensive position, had probably been tracking the SEAL team for hours, waiting for the perfect moment to spring their trap. "We need immediate air support," Morrison shouted into his radio. 6 enemy snipers, unknown positions, were taking casualties. "Air support is 45 minutes out," came the response from the operations center. "Apache gunships are inbound, but they need your exact coordinates and enemy positions before they can engage." 45 minutes. They'd all be dead in 10 at this rate. Callie had been in the middle of the formation when the ambush started. Her training kicked in immediately. She'd been in firefights before, had operated under sniper fire, knew how to read the battlefield. While the SEALs scrambled for cover, she was analyzing angles, listening to bullet impacts, calculating probable firing positions based on trajectory and timing. She spotted the first enemy sniper's position within 2 minutes, a rocky outcrop 700 meters upslope, offering perfect elevation and concealment. The shooter would be prone, maybe in a natural depression between rocks, using vegetation for camouflage. The second position revealed itself when muzzle gas disturbed pine needles, subtle, almost invisible, but Callie's trained eye caught it. Ridgeline, 600 meters northeast, likely behind a fallen log. She keyed her radio again. "Morrison, I can eliminate these snipers. I have training." "Rogers, stay in your lane. We don't need an analyst trying to play sniper," another SEAL screamed as a round caught him in the leg. 8 effectives now, with more wounded who needed immediate medical attention they couldn't provide while under fire. Callie made her decision. Morrison could court-martial her later if they survived. Right now, good people were dying, and she had the skills to stop it. She moved low and fast through the underbrush, using terrain features to mask her movement from the enemy positions she'd identified. Her M110 SASS was perfect for this. Semi-automatic sniper rifle, 7.62mm NATO, accurate to 800 meters, suppressed to reduce signature. Not as powerful as a bolt-action .300 Win Mag, but faster follow-up shots and good enough for the ranges she'd be engaging. She found a position 30 meters from where the team was pinned, a cluster of boulders that offered both concealment and shooting angles toward the enemy positions. She settled in, slowing her breathing, letting her heart rate drop, becoming perfectly still. Through her scope, she scanned the rocky outcrop where she'd calculated the first sniper was positioned. Nothing visible at first, just rocks and vegetation. But she knew where to look, knew the subtle signs that betrayed a hidden shooter. There. A shadow that was too uniform, a shape that didn't quite match the natural terrain. The sniper was using a camouflage net, blending perfectly into the rocks. Most people would never spot him. Callie wasn't most people. She calculated the shot, 715 meters. Wind approximately 8 miles per hour, left to right elevation angle about 15 degrees. Temperature 72 degrees. All factors that affected bullet trajectory at this range. She made minute adjustments to her scope, compensating for all variables, then settled the crosshairs on where she knew the sniper's head would be, slightly left of the visible shadow, accounting for the camouflage net's offset. She controlled her breathing. Exhale, natural pause, squeeze. The M110 coughed, the suppressor reducing the report to a sharp crack that echoed differently than the enemy's shots. Through her scope, she saw the camouflage net twitch, then collapse slightly. The first enemy sniper was down, but there were 5 more, and they'd just learned someone was shooting back. Immediately, fire shifted toward her position. Rounds snapped overhead, impacted the rocks around her. The enemy snipers were trying to bracket her location, suppress her, keep her from engaging again. Callie rolled left, moving to a new position 10 meters away before they could get her range. She'd learned in sniper school, never shoot twice from the same position. Move, shoot, move again. From her new position, she scanned for the second sniper, the one on the ridgeline behind the fallen log. He'd adjusted position after seeing his partner go down, was now more alert, more careful, but he'd made a mistake. He'd shifted to get a better angle on Callie's original position, and in doing so, He'd exposed the top of his ghillie suit above the log. Just a few inches, barely visible, but enough. Shot 2, 625 meters. Different wind conditions because of the ridgeline had to account for deflection around the terrain feature. Callie made the calculations in seconds, took the shot. The ghillie suit jerked. The second enemy sniper was eliminated. 4 left. The remaining enemy snipers were getting smart. They'd stopped shooting, gone completely silent, trying to blend into the forest and wait for Callie to expose herself looking for them. But silence worked both ways. While they were silent, Callie was moving. She relocated 40 meters downslope, finding a position in thick undergrowth that offered limited visibility but excellent concealment. From here, she couldn't see much of the battlefield. She could watch the approaches to where the enemy snipers would have to move if they wanted better angles on the SEAL team. And she waited. Patience was a sniper's greatest weapon. 5 minutes passed. 10. The SEALs were using the lull to treat their wounded, consolidate positions. Morrison kept trying to raise her on the radio, demanding to know what she was doing. She ignored him, focused on her sector, watching for any sign of movement. There, a flash of brown fabric moving between trees 400 meters out. One of the enemy snipers was relocating, trying to get a flanking position on the SEALs. Callie tracked him through her scope, waiting for him to pause to present a clear shot. He was good, moved in short bursts, used cover well, never stayed exposed for more than a second. But he made one mistake. He paused behind a tree to scan with his binoculars, and for just a moment, his shoulder and part of his head were visible past the trunk. It was enough. Shot 3. 430 meters, straightforward shot, minimal wind, good visibility. The enemy sniper collapsed behind the tree. 3 down, 3 to go. But now the remaining enemy snipers knew they were being hunted, and they were adapting. Callie saw the muzzle flash before she heard the shot, one of the remaining snipers firing at her position from an angle she hadn't expected. The round impacted 6 inches from her head, showering her with bark and splinters. She rolled hard, right as 2 more shots hit where she'd been. They'd triangulated her position, were trying to bracket her with coordinated fire. Time to move. She low-crawled 15 meters through undergrowth that tore at her uniform, then pushed upslope another 20 meters, breathing hard, weapon clutched tight. When she reached a new position, a small depression behind a fallen tree, she was 50 meters from where the enemy thought she was. Through her scope, she scanned the area where those shots had originated. 2 snipers working together, coordinating their fire. Smart tactics harder to counter. She spotted one of them first, positioned in a tree stand 20 feet up in a massive oak, using the elevation for better visibility and range. Brilliant position, almost impossible to assault conventionally, but also exposed from certain angles. Callie had that angle. Shot 4, 520 meters upward angle, compensating for the height in the tree branches that partially obscured the target. The round punched through the wooden platform the sniper was lying on, traveled through his body, and he tumbled from the tree. Immediately, the 5th sniper fired at her muzzle flash. Callie was already moving, but the round caught the stock of her M110, splintering the wood and sending the rifle spinning from her hands. She grabbed it, checked the damage. The weapon was still functional, but the stock was cracked, could break completely if she wasn't careful. She'd have to manage the recoil differently now. 2 enemy snipers left, and they knew where she was. For the next 3 minutes, it was a deadly game of cat and mouse. The enemy snipers would fire, trying to pin her down. She'd relocate, find a new angle, search for them through her scope. They were good, among the best she'd ever faced. They moved like ghosts, used every bit of cover, coordinated their movements to cover each other. But Callie had one advantage they didn't know about. She'd been tracking their pattern, learning how they thought, predicting their next moves based on terrain and tactical logic. When the 5th sniper relocated to what he thought was a perfect flanking position, Callie was already set up, waiting for him. He appeared in her scope, moving between 2 boulders, confident he was unseen. Shot 5, 380 meters, center mass because she only had a brief window. The enemy sniper went down hard. 1 left. The last enemy sniper was the best of them, Callie could tell by how he moved, how he anticipated her positions, how he'd stayed alive while his 5 partners were eliminated. He was playing it smart, staying hidden, not taking shots unless he was certain of the kill. The problem was, Callie was running out of ammunition, 3 rounds left in her magazine. No more reloads. She'd brought limited ammo because she was supposed to be just an analyst, 1 sniper, 3 bullets. She had to make them count. She repositioned again, moving upslope toward where she calculated the last sniper would be. The terrain narrowed here, rocky cliffs on one side, steep drop on the other, limited positions available. He'd have to be in one of 3 locations. She checked the first, empty. The second, nothing. That left the third position, a natural rock formation that created a perfect hide site with commanding views of the valley. If she were the enemy sniper, that's where she'd be. She approached from below, using dead ground to mask her movement, making herself as small as possible. When she finally had an angle on the position, she settled in, controlled her breathing, and scanned through her scope. At first, nothing. Then, there. The tiniest flicker of movement. The enemy sniper was there, camouflaged so well he was almost invisible, but the slight shift as he adjusted position had given him away. The problem: she couldn't see enough of him to take a clean shot, just a few inches of what might be his shoulder, partially obscured by rock and vegetation, a low percentage shot at best. But it was the only shot she had. Callie calculated everything. 290 meters, minimal wind. The real challenge was the target. If she was wrong about what she was seeing, she'd waste a round and give away her position. If she was right but hit rock instead of target, same result. She had to trust her training, her instincts, her thousands of hours behind a scope. She took the shot. Through her scope, she saw the impact. The shoulder jerked, but the sniper didn't go down. Wounded, but still combat effective, 2 rounds left. Return fire came immediately. The enemy sniper, wounded, but still dangerous, putting rounds toward her position. Callie rolled away as bullets chewed up the ground where she'd been. She had to finish this. No more cat and mouse, no more careful positioning. She had 2 rounds left, and an enemy sniper who now knew exactly where she was. Callie did something that violated every sniper doctrine. She charged. She broke cover and ran uphill toward the enemy position, weapon ready, using trees for concealment, but moving aggressively. The enemy sniper fired, missed, fired again. The round passed so close she felt the pressure wave. She dove behind a boulder 20 meters from his position, breathing hard, adrenaline screaming through her system, 1 round left in her magazine. She could hear him moving in his hide site, probably trying to relocate, knowing she was too close for him to have the advantage anymore. Callie stood up, brought her rifle to her shoulder, and scanned the position through her scope. There, the enemy sniper was climbing out of his hide, trying to get to better ground, his wounded shoulder slowing him down. Their eyes met through their respective scopes. A frozen moment where both snipers recognized the other's skill, the deadly game they'd been playing, the respect that existed between warriors even as they tried to kill each other. Then, Callie took her final shot. The enemy sniper fell, and the forest went silent. 18 minutes from the first shot to the last, 6 enemy snipers eliminated 0 friendly casualties after Callie had engaged. She keyed her radio. "Morrison, this is Rogers. All 6 enemy snipers neutralized. You're clear to treat wounded and call for evac." There was a long pause. Then Morrison's voice, carrying a note of absolute disbelief. "Rogers, did you just... all 6 of them?" "Affirmative. I'll need an ammo resupply, though." "I'm Winchester." She walked back down the slope toward where the SEAL team was consolidating. As she emerged from the tree line, all 8 surviving SEALs were staring at her like she'd just walked out of a legend. Morrison was the first to speak. "You want to explain how an intelligence analyst just eliminated 6 enemy snipers that we've been trying to deal with for 3 months?" Callie slung her damaged rifle across her back. "I'm not just an intelligence analyst, Lieutenant. I was Army sniper qualified before I transferred to Intel 3 years in sniper school, 2 combat deployments, 43 confirmed kills. I analyze enemy sniper tactics because I used to be one. But everyone sees the intelligence insignia and assumes that's all I can do. Chief Chen, clutching his wounded shoulder, laughed despite the pain. 43? Make that 49 now. Those were impossible shots, Rogers. That tree stand kill, the one through the camouflage net, those aren't just good shooting, that's world-class precision. I had good instructors, Callie replied simply. And those enemy snipers, as good as they were, made mistakes. They assumed I was just another target. They didn't expect someone to hunt them back. Petty Officer Sarah Martinez, the team's medic, was working on the wounded. Whatever your background, you saved our asses. We'd all be dead if you hadn't engaged. The remaining SEALs began securing the area while Martinez stabilized the wounded. Callie moved among them, helping where she could, her mind already shifting back to intelligence mode, documenting the enemy positions, noting their tactics, gathering data that would help future operations. Rogers, Morrison called out. Come look at this. He was standing at the first enemy sniper position, the rocky outcrop where Callie had made her opening shot. The dead sniper was still in position, his camouflage net perfectly arranged, his weapon a high-end Russian-made SVD Dragunov with premium optics. This guy was a professional, Morrison said, examining the position. Pre-sighted ranges marked on rocks, multiple fallback positions prepared, escape routes planned. These weren't just good shooters, they were elite. Callie knelt beside the position, her analyst's mind cataloging every detail. Look at the wear on his weapon. This rifle has seen extensive use. And see these? She pointed to small scratches on the stock. Tally marks. This sniper had at least 18 kills marked on his weapon. 18 American operators, Morrison said grimly. And you took him out with one shot through camouflage we couldn't even see. They moved to the second position, the ridgeline where the sniper had hidden behind the fallen log. This one was equally professional, with multiple shooting lanes prepared and escape routes mapped out. These snipers had been operating here for months, Callie observed. They knew this terrain perfectly. Every position is mutually supporting, overlapping fields of fire, pre-planned fallback routes. This wasn't opportunistic. This was a coordinated sniper cell operating like a well-oiled machine. Until they ran into someone better, Chen said, having walked up despite his wounded shoulder. 6 of their best versus 1 of ours. I know which side won. As they continued documenting the enemy positions, Petty Officer Jake Wilson approached Callie. He was the youngest member of the team, barely 23, and he looked shaken. Staff Sergeant Rogers, I need to say something. When we got briefed for this mission, I heard some of the guys saying you'd slow us down, that having an intel analyst in the field was dead weight. I believed them. I'm sorry. Callie looked at the young SEAL. Wilson, don't apologize for making assumptions based on limited information. That's human nature. The lesson isn't to feel bad about it. It's to remember that job titles don't tell you everything about a person's capabilities. I don't advertise my sniper background because I'm trying to build a career in intelligence, but that doesn't mean those skills disappeared. Well, you just taught us all a hell of a lesson, Wilson said. Those 6 snipers were legendary. Command said they were unstoppable, and you stopped all of them in 18 minutes. The helicopter extraction arrived 40 minutes after Callie's final shot. As the CH-47 Chinook descended into a clearing, the crew chief's eyes widened at the number of wounded being loaded aboard. What the hell happened out here? He shouted over the rotor noise. Enemy sniper ambush, Morrison replied. 6 hostiles eliminated by counter-sniper fire. 6? How many counter-snipers did you have? Morrison looked at Callie, who was helping load a wounded SEAL onto the bird. Just 1, and she's supposed to be an intelligence analyst. The crew chief followed Morrison's gaze, taking in Callie's slight frame, her intelligence insignia, her damaged rifle. That analyst took out 6 enemy snipers? 18 minutes, Chen added, grimacing as medics secured him to a stretcher. 6 targets, 6 kills, 0 misses. I've been doing this for 12 years, and I've never seen shooting like that. Back at base 8 hours later, Callie sat through the longest debrief of her career. The operations center was packed. Senior officers, intelligence personnel, sniper instructors, mission planners. Everyone wanted to understand how one operator had accomplished what entire teams had failed to do for 3 months. She walked them through her tactics, displaying a tactical map and marking each enemy position. The first sniper was here, using terrain masking and camouflage netting. I identified him by shadow inconsistency and unnatural geometry in the rock formation. Shot distance was 715 meters with an 8-mile-per-hour crosswind. A Marine sniper instructor, Master Sergeant Thomas Beck, interrupted. "You made that shot through camouflage netting you couldn't actually see through. I calculated where his head would be based on the position geometry and the angle of his shooting lane. The netting offset was approximately 6 inches left of the visible shadow. I compensated for that in my aim point." Beck whistled low. "That's not just marksmanship, that's tactical problem-solving at a level most snipers never reach." Callie continued through each engagement, explaining her decision-making process, her movement patterns, her ammunition management. When she reached the final engagement, the charge uphill with only 2 rounds remaining, several officers looked skeptical. "Staff Sergeant Rogers," Colonel Sarah Hayes said, "you violated every doctrine about sniper engagement distances. Why would you charge an enemy position with minimal ammunition?" "Because I'd already wounded him and he knew my position. Staying at range meant a prolonged engagement I couldn't win with limited ammo. By closing distance aggressively, I forced him out of his comfort zone, made him react to my initiative instead of executing his plan. It was high risk, but the calculated odds were better than the alternative." "Aggressive decision-making combined with technical precision," Hayes observed. "That's a rare combination. Most snipers are methodical to the point of being passive." "Most snipers haven't worked intelligence operations," Callie replied. "My analyst training taught me to assess probabilities and make decisions based on incomplete information. I combine that with my sniper skills, patience when needed, aggression when required." The intelligence chief, Lieutenant Commander Marcus Reed, leaned forward. "The positions you identified and documented, that information is gold for future operations. You didn't just eliminate the threat, you gathered intelligence that will save lives going forward. That's exactly the kind of dual capability we need more of." Over the following days, Callie's actions generated significant attention throughout the special operations community. The story spread. The intelligence analyst, who'd eliminated 6 enemy snipers in 18 minutes, using skills nobody knew she had because they'd never asked Morrison's SEAL team, formally requested her permanent attachment. "We need someone with your unique skill set," Morrison told her during a meeting. "You understand both the intelligence picture and the tactical execution. That combination is invaluable." But Callie had other plans. "I appreciate the offer, Lieutenant, but I didn't transfer to intelligence to go back to being a full-time shooter. What happened in those mountains was necessary, but it's not where I want my career to go." "So what do you want?" "I want to do exactly what I did out there. Combine intelligence analysis with tactical capability. I want to identify enemy sniper threats before they can engage our forces, and when necessary, I want the authority to eliminate those threats directly." That conversation led to a new position being created. Counter-sniper operations specialist Callie would analyze enemy sniper patterns, identify high-value targets, plan counter-sniper operations, and when required, execute those operations personally. She'd hunt snipers with intelligence 90% of the time, and with a rifle the other 10%. The perfect combination of her 2 skill sets. The promotion came 3 weeks later. Sergeant First Class Callie Rogers, assigned to Joint Special Operations Command's Counter-Sniper Operations Division. Her first tasking: analyze enemy sniper activity across the entire operational theater and develop strategies to neutralize the threat. She assembled a small team, 2 intelligence analysts, 3 sniper instructors, and a tactical coordinator. Together, they began mapping enemy sniper activity, identifying patterns that individual units couldn't see because they only had pieces of the puzzle. Within 2 months, Callie's team had identified 3 more enemy sniper cells operating in different regions. Using the intelligence they had gathered, they coordinated operations that eliminated 2 cells without firing a shot. Precision artillery strikes based on Callie's analysis of sniper positions and movement patterns. The 3rd cell required direct engagement. Callie led a 4-person team into the field, using her understanding of sniper tactics to predict where the enemy would position themselves. They caught the 3-man enemy team during a position change, eliminating all 3 with coordinated fire before the enemy could react. Her methods became doctrine intelligence-driven counter-sniper operations, combining analytical pattern recognition with tactical execution. Other units began adopting her approach, creating their own hybrid intelligence combat teams. But she'd always remember those 18 minutes in the mountain forest. The 6 enemy snipers who'd thought they were untouchable. The SEALs who'd assumed she was just an analyst. The moment when skills she'd developed years ago proved they never really disappeared. They just waited for the right moment to matter again. The SEAL team kept her damaged rifle as a memorial, mounted in their team room with a plaque. SSG Callie Rogers, 6 targets, 18 minutes, 0 margin for error. The analyst who hunted ghosts. And in the mountains where those snipers had operated for months, American forces moved freely, no longer afraid of invisible death from unknown positions. The threat had been neutralized not by artillery or airstrikes or massive operations, by one woman with a rifle, 18 minutes, and the skills everyone had assumed she didn't have because they'd only looked at her job title instead of her complete capabilities. Morrison visited her office 6 months after the mountain operation. "I wanted to give you an update," he said. "We've run 17 patrols through that sector since you cleared those snipers. 0 casualties, 0 contact. You didn't just eliminate 6 enemies, you opened up an entire operational area that had been denied to us for months." "That's the power of removing a strategic threat," Callie replied, pointing to the intelligence map on her wall that showed enemy sniper activity across the region. Those 6 weren't just shooters. They were a psychological weapon. Every patrol knew they were out there, operated with that fear. Eliminating them removed both the physical threat and the psychological one. "Speaking of which," Morrison continued, "I brought you something." He handed her a small wooden box. Inside was the scope from the first enemy sniper she'd killed, the one with the camouflage net. "We recovered it from his position. Thought you might want it as a reminder." Callie examined the scope, high-quality optics, extensively modified, well-maintained. This had belonged to a professional who'd taken his craft seriously. "This represents someone who dedicated their life to being excellent at something deadly. I respect that, even though we were on opposite sides." "That's what makes you different from most operators," Morrison observed. "You understand your enemy, respect their capabilities while still defeating them. That's why you're so good at this." The awards came quietly, combat commendations that couldn't be publicly acknowledged because the mission was classified. But within the special operations community, Callie Rogers became a name that commanded respect. The operator who'd proven that job titles were just labels, that capabilities mattered more than current assignments, that the quiet professional was often the most dangerous person in the room. She continued her work, hunting enemy snipers through intelligence analysis and, when necessary, through precision fire. She trained others in her methods, creating a new generation of operators who understood that the best way to defeat a sniper wasn't always another sniper. Sometimes it was an analyst who thought like a sniper and shot like one too. And she never forgot the lesson those 18 minutes had taught her. Excellence in one area didn't disappear when you moved to another. Skills stacked, capabilities compounded, and the most valuable operators were those who could apply multiple skill sets to the same problem. The mountains still stood silent, their forests no longer hiding death in camouflaged positions. The enemy had learned that American forces had operators who could hunt ghosts, who could see the invisible, who could stop the unstoppable. They'd learned it from 6 eliminated snipers and 1 intelligence analyst who'd proven that sometimes the most dangerous weapon wasn't the rifle. It was the mind behind it, trained in both analysis and action, capable of both patience and precision. Sergeant First Class Callie Rogers had been underestimated because of assumptions about what intelligence analysts could do. She'd corrected those assumptions with 18 minutes of perfect shooting and a career built on proving that capability had no job description. The SEALs who'd worked with her never made assumptions about anyone's capabilities again. The enemy snipers who'd thought themselves untouchable learned their mistake too late. And Callie continued her work, quiet and professional, the analyst who hunted with both intelligence and rifles, the warrior who proved that excellence in multiple domains created capabilities that transcended any single job title. 6 snipers. 18 minutes. One operator who refused to be defined by anyone's expectations except her own. The forest remembered. The SEALs remembered. And every enemy sniper who heard the story learned to fear the operators they couldn't see, the analysts who might be more than they appeared, the quiet professionals who carried skills that waited, patient and deadly, for the moment they were needed most. Unstoppable was just a word. Callie Rogers had proven it could be stopped, with precision, intelligence, and 18 minutes of perfect execution when it mattered most. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more inspiring tales of courage.